Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Room, the podcast brought to you by LFC Transfer Room. I'm Richie, and I'll be one of your hosts today. And alongside me, I'm joined by Kev. How are you today, Kev?
I'm good, mate. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this. I don't know if you are, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very special edition of The Room for you today, as we are joined by Paul Khan, the chair of the Liverpool Supporters Union Spirit of Shankly. Thank you for joining us today, Paul, and I hope you are well also.
I'm great. I don't know whether Kev's getting overexcited there, but I'll do my best to try and explain what Spirit of Shankly do and what our aspirations are and some of the things that we're involved in from community-based perspective and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, for those who might not be aware of what Spirit of Shankly does, could you provide our listeners with some information about the Supporters Union?
Yeah, well, the Spirit of Shankly obviously was formed when Hicks and Gillette were basically destroying the club, really. You know, it was formed as a campaigning organisation, and that's what we are still today. You know, we've campaigned on so many things, you know, the ticket prices for away games, 20's plenty. We were at the forefront of that. You know, you think about when we were going to introduce the £77, charge for the main stand, the new main stand, and we all walked out after 77 minutes. There's that many I could go on about. I suppose the most relevant ones, like as it stands at the moment, is obviously, you know, the Paris debacle and what we've done basically to bring that to the attention. You think about how Hillsborough, you know, still going on basically like after 30 odd years, and you know, with Paris, you know, we got an apology within a year of Sefrin. We managed to get refunds for all the supporters who purchased tickets from the club. You know, we've had our voice in Parliament through Ian Byrne, our MP, who sits on Spirit of Shankly, and it helps provide supporters with a voice. And obviously, we've done so much work around supporting people who've had mental health issues afterwards. So there's so much the Spirit of Shankly does, as well as dealing with the strategic issues through the supporters board, which we formed last year, signing the Articles of Association with the club to give us a direct access into the decision makers within the club. Some people have raised concerns about the supporters board, you know, Spirit of Shankly members. There are other like-minded organisations on it. People like 1906, Cop-Outs, the LDSA. But I just want to reassure the Spirit of Shankly membership that the 16 places on the supporters board, 10 are occupied by Spirit of Shankly members, so we'll always win every vote. So Spirit of Shankly's voice will always be there and always be powerful. In relation to the fans forums, which the supporters board run, the two main ones, which are Matchday Experience and Ticketing, are chaired by Spirit of Shankly members. And obviously the chair of the supporters board is Joe Blott, who was obviously, prior to me taking over his position, he was the chair of Spirit of Shankly and has kindly remained on the management committee at Spirit of Shankly. One of the things that when I was approached to see if I would put my name forward as chair was I didn't want to lose Joe because the unbelievable work he's done with the FSA and ESA and the Premier League, you know, the relationships he's established. I think it's absolutely appropriate that, you know, you keep that knowledge base there. And Joe kindly said he would continue, and we formed a partnership group which Joe heads up for us.
I'd just like to say congratulations, Paul, on being the new chair of the Spirit of Shankly. How have the 2 months gone? Is it same as usual, but your inbox is a little bit more heavy and it's got your name at the bottom and it's all addressed to you?
It's been very intense, and I've said, you know, I'm familiarising myself with the people, the decision makers in the club, I didn't know them all. Like I'm getting to know them all. This is going to take me time, basically, to work out who are the right people to talk to. One of the things that we've done, which was prior to me, we'd already started this process, but I'm so much behind it. It's incredible that we needed to simplify. Spirits of Shankly is a complicated organisation in terms of the things that we do: ticket and match day experience, community, strategy, equality, diversity, inclusion. We've split into 15 different working groups, and there's a group lead for each. And one of the things that I'm trying to encourage is that people who are members can join those working groups. If you've got knowledge and understanding and expertise in particular areas and can contribute, like ticketing's a massive one for us. Like that seems to be the main concern to most of the members, which you can imagine. We're looking to strengthen that group, and we're looking at if people understand about ticketing systems, etc. Please make an approach. And we'll consider putting people on those groups. I talk about autonomy, and when I did my initial talk, it's about autonomy and also inclusivity. The 15 working groups. See, I think to myself, I don't know, I don't know everything. Nobody does. So basically, the thing to do is surround yourself with people who've got expertise in those areas. So the 15 people who are leading those groups have all got expertise in those areas. And if you want to see what those groups are, please join Spirits of Shankly, because it's in the last newsletter and you'll have more of an understanding. So I want to provide autonomy. I don't want to be dictatorial in any way, shape or form. That's not the way it should be. It should be inclusive. Nobody can do everything. Everybody can do something. Famous quote from Gil Scott-Heron, and that's the way I've always approached my work and life. But I also talk about inclusivity, because one of the things that I want to introduce is that it's all right 15 on the management committee with me making certain decisions and blah, blah, blah. Like, we need to reach out to the membership. We've got thousands of members who've all got a voice, and I want to hear that voice. So one of the things that I'm currently working on is setting up a voting platform where we can ask questions to the membership, and they can come back and provide us with guidance in terms of what they would like our approach to be when we're talking to the club. I said about the group leads as well. It doesn't always have to be me who's talking to the club. I'm more than happy for those group leads basically to take the lead and talk to whoever at the club. So basically, whoever's in charge of ticketing strategy, for example, who's the lady who's leading our ticketing group up, basically talks directly to the ticketing person within the club. They don't need me there basically overseeing it. The way I've always worked is I believe on trust and being there to provide support. And if people are struggling in any way, that's where I see my role as the chair, to try and help. And if people need further assistance, to reach out to people from the union or beyond, other Liverpool supporters, to join and help us in our goals of creating the best fan experience we possibly can for Liverpool fans. And as I said, my overall vision for the union is to create the biggest, strongest, most effective supporters union in the world. And people might think, well, that's a mad thing, but it's absolutely not. Spirits of Shankly is so well respected, both across the country and across Europe. And obviously we want to make it across the world. We want to be held up as basically a centre for excellence of how to run a supporters union and act as a template. And I think that's one of the great things we've done with the supporters board. Lots of people now, lots of other clubs are following our example, and that's what we need to do.
That's good. It's a lot of people will think of the SOS as more of a a membership for Match Going Reds. But from what you've just said and talking about inclusivity, this is probably a great time for anyone who is a non-match going red to be involved. Is that something that you want to get more people in who are not going to the match and provide an involvement into the union as well?
That's absolutely right. One of the things that I'm already trying to do is I'm working with a gentleman called Lee Foley, who works on the supporters board. I was actually on a call this week about all this, about growing a membership. And I've got a strategy which we're putting in place, developed by the group lead for market and membership. And we definitely do need to bring in more people from different backgrounds. We need to bring in more younger people. We need to bring in more ethnic minorities. We need to bring in people from across the globe who are great Liverpool supporters but don't get the opportunity to go to the game. Their voices are important. We don't never want to lose sight of, obviously, the Scouse heart and spirit of Shankly, and that will never happen because, it's embedded into the culture of the city, as you know, Kev Ritchie. But that doesn't mean that we can't, reach out and welcome other people. And Lee, who runs the OLSC, the official Liverpool Supporters Club network, has got 250 supporters club under his remit. And I'm talking to Lee about how we can promote the work of Spirit of Shankly and set up champions both across the country and internationally, because he's got supporters clubs basically everywhere in the world. And I want him to act as an ambassador for us. Obviously, we haven't agreed all this. These are just discussions that I need to have with Lee, or probably Chris, who's leading from SOS Group Lead, as I said, for market and membership, will initiate. We've got to be seen as all embracing. That's what Shankly would have wanted.
Definitely.
As he said, we're here to conquer the bloody world, or words to that effect. And, we want to be the biggest and best, and we want to make sure that all Liverpool supporters have a voice, because, one of the massive issues is that even with, obviously, the new seats that are going into the ground, we'll only go up to 57,000 people. Yeah, we've got 2-3 billion supporters across the world. We're just very fortunate. One of the things that we're taking immediate action on, by the way, is I'll what's his name this now. So, one of the things that I want to champion is us having a presence basically in the local community pubs. And starting off at Hotel Anfield. So if anybody's around on Saturday and wants to go to Hotel Anfield, you'll see that we'll have a Spirit of Shankly stall there. It'll be manned by 3 or 4 people. I'm trying to get younger people involved as well as older people. So we've got to cross, because I think young people need to talk to young people to say why, you should join Spirit of Shankly. It shouldn't just be loads of people like myself who've obviously been fortunate enough to grow up in the Shankly era. So one of the things that we're doing is you'll see there'll be a stall there. Basically, there'll be 2 stands explaining why, you should join Spirit of Shankly, day-to-day strategic issues, accountability, representation for individuals, community initiatives, football-wide issues, the supporters board, the away travel that we organise. And we'll be looking for people to sign up on the day. So you'll see us at Hotel Anfield on Saturday from 12:30 till 2:30. And then I'll be making approaches to other pubs in the area. I know probably not the best thing to say, but I know a lot of the people because I'm from Anfield. So I don't think we'll have any issue having a presence in those pubs, and people can ask us direct questions about what we're doing and what they'd like us to do, and we'll try to answer in the best way that we possibly can. And we've just had, I'll just show you that, we've just had 2,500 beer mats made with QR codes on, which I've just had them done, and you'll see them floating around different pubs. Like obviously it'll start in Hotel Anfield, and people can, if you just sit there having a pint and you can read about the union and what we do, and if you're interested, you can scan the QR code, and then if you want to join there, and then you can go and do it.
I really like that idea. And if you can send us a couple of beer mats, I unfortunately won't be at the game on Saturday, but I will be later on in the season. You mentioned, and I do want to plug it now, actually, you mentioned in people joining, Kev and I both are members, but if you could let the listeners know, A, how they can join, and perhaps B, how much it is to join per year.
Yeah, it's £10 per year, which I think is reasonable. You get a pack, which will be sent out to you with a few goodies in, badges and things like that, when you join. And obviously there's discounts for OAPs like myself and
Kev, you were going to say, weren't you? You was going to say,
cheers, Paul.
I think Kev looks a lot younger than me, and obviously for younger people as well. And the pricing strategy, that's one of the things that, like, when I talk about marketing as well, because you think about, if we wanted to, get into, poorer countries like in the Middle East and stuff like that, could they afford £10 to join? I don't know. Don't know whether we'll find all those different things out. We might have to have different pricing strategies in different countries, but that's where to go forward. I'm only in the first 2 months of me tenure, so I'm full of ideas and all that. I've just got to make sure that some of them are practical. But yeah, and then you've got full voting rights. You're invited to the AGM. One of the things that you'll see, Kev Ritchie, one of the questions once I've got this voting system up and running, obviously, technically, I used to know a little. I was a techie myself once, many years ago, but I'm not anymore. Like back when it was Pac-Man and stuff like that. You remember? Yeah, Nintendo and all that. But in all seriousness, I want to create this. I've literally just got off a call with a gentleman who's going to be doing that for us. So that one of the questions that I want to ask is what should be the frequency of face-to-face meetings, because we only do once a year. The membership might say, well, we should be doing it. I'll put a question out there. Should it be quarterly? Should it be half yearly? Or should it stay at 1 year? And see what the members turn around and say. And then obviously I've got to look at the practical aspects. If people said it was quarterly, it costs a lot of money to put it on. Probably ideally, if I'm looking at basically the finances, we'd definitely be able to do every 6 months. But if the membership really wanted it, every quarter, we'd need to find a way to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like it's a really exciting time, actually. And like you mentioned, you have so many ideas. I just think it's a really exciting / anxious moment as well to fill the boots that obviously Joe left. But it sounds like you've got a tremendous job on your hands, and you're doing it really well, going in 2-footed.
Well, you think to yourself, I did mention in the opening, I had to do some video thing, like which went on the website or something, or on the newsletter. But I said, Stefan, you look at the late great Paul Rice, you look at Frank Stanton, you look at Jay McKenna, you look at the work Joe Blott did, really good, great people, basically. And I'm just going to try and try and build on what they've done, and try to do as good a job as what they did, and just do my best. And obviously, if it's not enough, I'll be the first to recognise that, and I'd walk away and basically give it to somebody else. But yeah, and I'm very fortunate that I've inherited the fantastic team, all committed members, who all want to do the best, and and let's reiterate this, everybody's doing it for free and giving up the time. They're all working you know, I'm fortunate that I've retired now, like, so I can give more of my time up. But you know, and the other thing I've said to people, you know, when I did my opening talk, basically to the committee, you know, we're going to make mistakes, right? That's the way of life, right? I understand that. Like, but the thing is that we learn from basically things that we do. I want people to be brave, come up with ideas. Like, I know you're going to ask me about community work and stuff like that. And we do obviously lots around Anfield. You know, we do tech and welfare advice, partners up with Vauxhall Law Centre. We've been running drama clubs from the church pub. We've been running art workshops, guitar workshops. You know, we're doing all sorts of stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be in Anfield. Like, I don't know where you're from, Kevin, Liverpool, basically, like, but
Aylwood, mate.
Aylwood.
Side.
Oh, all right, okay. I was going to say the late great Morrow would kill me. The legend that's Steve Monaghan, like, took me to my first European away game in 1984, Steve Benfica away. Cracking fella, and obviously one of the founding fathers of Spirit of Shankly, and
Definitely.
you know, still he was great when I took on the chair. I actually sought his advice, and he said, you know, I'll always be there for you, Paul, and you know, if you need any help or advice, you know, just pick up the phone. And you know, he organises the away coaches with Roy Bentham and all that, like, and as I said, all cracking lads and ladies, you know, and community stuff. You know, we were down at what's his name the other week, Pride, you know, supporting the Pride initiative. We got special Spirits of Shankly t-shirts made. We got a banner made. You know, Paul Aman, who's the chair of Cop Out, cracking fella. He's on the supporters board. He's also a member of Spirits of Shankly, and you know, we wanted to go down there and show our support for the LGBT community. You know, we talked about inclusivity. It should be about everyone, you know, irrespective of gender, faith, whatever. You know, we're all in it together. You know, we're all like-minded. We all want what's the best for Liverpool Football Club and Liverpool fans. And that's the way, you know, that we work, and that's the way that we're going to continue working.
I mean, you speak about inclusivity, and I think that everybody can pick that up who's listening. That's all we've spoken about for 22 minutes, and that's such a big part of Spirit of Shankly, and rightly so. And as part of the initiatives, one of the areas that I would like to discuss is the work that you do for fans supporting food banks, and an initiative SOS committee member Ian Byrne, the Liverpool West Derby MP, alongside Dave Kelly from Everton's Blue Union, led the grassroots initiative to fight food poverty. Following a plea for donations for local food banks at a recent derby, both supporter groups have linked up with North Liverpool Food Bank and ABCC, the Anfield Brexside Community Council, to organise weekly collections at every home game at Anfield and Goodison. What started with 3 fans collecting tins of food in a wheelie bin outside a pub on match days now supplies an amazing 25% of all donations to North Liverpool Food Bank, and has become a grassroots organisation that stretches from Glasgow to London to Dublin. I mean, can you explain the impact that this initiative has had on people and how people are able to access this support? Because we've had a conversation, Paul, you and I, privately on the phone, and I was quite blown away actually with the project itself and what it's led to, going from those, you know, the 3 people with a wheelie bin outside a pub.
Yeah, basically it started off outside. There's 4 of us now. I'm part of the committee as well. I joined 3 years ago, so I'm a newbie. So there's Dave Kelly, Robbie Daniels, Robbie the Rabbit, I call him, but that's another story, and Ian Byrne, the MP. So it was Robbie and Dave who kicked it off, basically with a wheelie bin outside Goodison Park, and as they said, they got more chip papers than food at the time. And then Ian Byrne, the MP, he's Bernie to me because we've been going a match for 35 years together. So Ian, I'll call him Ian. It probably sounds better. He started basically the match day collections in Anfield, and it's just grown and grown and grown. The idea, you know, basically we've actually got a dedicated unit outside the COP. You've probably seen fan support and food banks unit. where we do the match day collections. We haven't got a dedicated one outside Goodison yet, but obviously that's going to be getting knocked down anyway, isn't it, or something? I don't know. But it's going to, it'll be it. And we give all that food to North Liverpool Food Bank, who then distribute it to the food banks in the north of Liverpool, to provide food for them. The main thing I want to say about fan support food banks is that the big initiative is the mobile pantry initiative, which we've developed, which was built on a your local pantry model. And what we do there is we've got 4 vans, and we go around 6 areas in the city, and we set up basically a farmers market where people pay £3.50 and then access £20 worth of food. All that food, it's not through match day collections. This is stuff that we sort ourselves, by working with other partners. So, for example, in Toxteth, I run the Greenhouse Project, an education charity, and we partner up with a community organisation like the Greenhouse, who recruit the volunteers who run the pantry. And we have music, we have family art clubs. We make it a real community feel, and that's funded by Spirit of Shankly to the tune of £42,000 a year, which a lot of members don't know, which is a fantastic thing to do. I'm currently in negotiations with my parish from the foundation to set one up in Anfield, but we also run them in Vauxhall Law Centre, Nedley, Fazakerley, West Derby, and probably forgot one. And we feed about 80,000. Well, last year we fed 80,000 people a year. Now, we also have a national initiative, which is being spearheaded by Dave Kelly and Ian Byrne, called the Right to Food campaign, where we want the right to food to be enshrined in law. And we've got, I think it's 37 cities, basically Liverpool City regions, all signed up for it, that the right to food should be enshrined in law. We've just been running community kitchens, where we provide 3-course meals to people, restaurant quality, getting chefs in and around Liverpool, basically to reach out to families who can't afford to go into town and have something, a nice meal and stuff like that. And Robbie Fowler kindly gave us some money towards that. We've reached out. Celtic and Rangers have come on board. Basically, there's 7 clubs in Scotland. There's clubs in London. There's clubs in Dublin. Who've all come on board basically to adopt the model that we've pioneered in Liverpool, and they're all promoting the right to food. You'll see on the 23rd of September, we're planning a hunger march right across the country as well. This is led by Fan Support and Food Banks. There'll be one in Liverpool. We're just in the process of organising that now. Again, to try and get the right to food to be established, as I said, embedded in law. And Fan Support, on the board of the Fan Support and Food Banks, as I said, there's 4 of us. And there always has to be one representative, which is from Spirit of Shankly, which we've actually got 2 because there's me and Ian. And then from the Everton perspective, their union, which I think is the Blue Union. So we there's always got to be on our board one of them. There's only 4 of us at the moment, and we just, I don't know, we seem to do a good job. And Spirit of Shankly are great supporters of what we do. And just for any, I said before about we will be doing the membership drive at the Hotel Anfield, but anybody who's coming to the Hotel Anfield will also be collecting food there for Fan Support and Food Banks, because obviously we haven't got a presence at Anfield Road. We used to be at Anfield Road, but we haven't got a presence there anymore. So it makes sense that while Spirit of Shankly are campaigning, trying to get new members in, basically if people want to come and drop food, the lads who run the van for us, Robbie he'll just drive round after, because he's an Evertonian, he'll just drive round to Hotel Anfield and pick up the food. And we will have a presence again, fan support food banks outside the Anfield Road stand. We've spoke to the foundation and the club, and they've agreed they want to get basically the opening of the Anfield Road out of the way first and see first 4 or 5 games basically how it's going to work before we think of a position to have the van or basically another purpose-built unit there. So watch this space on that. And that's fan support and food banks, really. It's an absolutely amazing initiative, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Paul, being one who travels to the away games now and again, it's good that there's interaction, collaboration with other food banks in other areas. I've noticed a few times when I've been up to Newcastle, we've not only stopped off at the food bank source there, but we've also assisted them with food as well. That's being contributed up to them. It's a great interaction between everyone who's involved in it, and it gives you a great insight. I'll be honest, it's only when you start getting involved in that and you get the likes of Morrow and Ian going, grab hold of that and take that up there for us, and you then get to speak to these wonderful people who are volunteering, by the way, and they're giving up their time to do this. It's an unbelievable cause, and it's a great initiative, I think, and it also, it shows how the leadership from the Spirit of Shankly is going out and visiting these and spending time, and even just spending 5-10 minutes just discussing the issues and the impact in the areas. It's amazing.
That's right, Kev, and that's reciprocated because away fans drop food off at Anfield as well. They make, basically they make it, like it's really good. I mean, the interesting thing is, again, I know this is an SOS call, but just on the FSF side of things, I mean, we've just set up basically 10 pantries in St. Helens now as well. Like they've got funding. And the weird thing is, I think I mentioned to Ritchie the other day, I did a talk for Tiago Alcantara, like basically this was about education, but a lady there put me in contact with Gemma Bonner, who was the captain of Liverpool, who lifted the championship. I can't remember which year for the women's team, 2013 and 14, I think. And it's just rejoined that. Yeah. She's just rejoined, and she comes down and actually volunteers, like at our food pantry in Toxteth, at the greenhouse food pantry. And she's been bringing her husband's made up, or a fella. The fella's, you wouldn't mess with him. His name's Willie Iser. He's a Samoan international who plays for Wigan Warriors. Like, and he's come from tough stock, so he's made up in socks that he gets his hair cut there. And he's mucking in. And then what was great about that then is like, besides the football, St. Helens rugby league team let us set up collection points outside their ground. Like, so we're going further than just football as well. So
that's amazing, mate. It's amazing.
Yeah, so that.
just moving on from that, just slightly. You mentioned it before with the collaboration with the Football Supporters Association. Could you explain to us the role that SOS played within the 20 for Plenty campaign that provided the away games to be restructured and now we only pay £30? What was SOS's role within that with the FSA, and how was that collaboration to this day?
Well, that SOS was one of the main drivers. There was a couple of clubs, from my understanding, like I wasn't directly involved in that campaign, so it's difficult for me to elaborate on it. But obviously with the FSA, it's funded by the Premier League, isn't it? So they weren't that keen, like about the prices coming down. I believe 1 or 2 clubs were saying, bloody hell, we can't do that. So I mean, they're giving us the money basically to have the FSA, but Spirit of Shankly stood up strong and said no. basically like, we're going to campaign for this, like, and I basically led the campaign, and you know, managed to, obviously it didn't go to 20, I think it went to 30, didn't it? Like, but you know, it's a real result for away supporters. I mean, you know, really, I'd like to think, you know, what do you think about the old ticket prices and the ticket prices, not just at Anfield, but across, really, as we move forward, and like, you know, the television, you know, revenue and everything else is so powerful, and, you know, the importance of people through the door or through the turnstiles diminishes all the time in terms of revenue for the club. You know, we should be saying to the clubs, basically, why can't we reduce their own ticket prices as well, make it affordable? Like, you might say, well, that's just absolutely pie in the sky. But I said before, you know, why can't we? Why can't we basically think about radical things like that, and think about how we potentially might campaign? You know, I mentioned earlier about the £77 main stand seats. Like, you'll remember when they were introducing them in the main stand, and we all walked out of the Sunderland game, and then they frigging conceded 2 goals. Remember, we were winning 2-0.
Yeah.
We were on a taxi on the way to town to have a couple of pints, and the taxi, we heard on the way down as we were walking down that it was 2-1. And when we got in the cab, ever so he was like that, hey, it's 2-0, like, freaking hell.
Well, the good thing about that, Paul, just alluding on that, there was emails that were sent out to the members as well, to send out to the actual big actual franchises who sponsorship deals. So I remember loads of emails being sent to the likes of Subway, and I've still got quite a few of them in my sent inbox that I feel proud of. Although I wasn't, and it just shows the effect of being a member for me as well, because although I wasn't a match going red, there was initiative. There was still option. There was still a way of anyone who was not a match going red could still be involved in that. And the only way I could have done that is by being a member. Yeah,
and that's the thing, you know. That's why membership is key, because the thing is that you think about it. I'd like to think that you think that we're doing some good things as it stands at the moment. Obviously, you know, campaigning and contesting with the club and challenging and doing all sorts of stuff that goes behind the scenes, but people don't know. You know, problems with season tickets, renewals, basically banning orders. You know, there's all sorts of stuff like that goes on as well. But obviously, the bigger the union, like, the more money that comes in, the more things that we can do. Like, I said about the community initiatives, why couldn't basically, I mean, it's a fantastic organisation called Red Indians. I don't know whether you've heard of them before. They're based in London. Like, they're just Indian lads. Like they cycled up last year, basically raised £5,000 for fan support food banks, and gave us money for the education charity I run as well. And like, if they come forward and said, we've got an idea for a community initiative to run in London, why shouldn't SOS support that? Why not?
Definitely.
We've got loads of fans in London. Like, if people come forward and say we want to do something, obviously, you know, I'm not being naive and stupid here. It's all about affordability. But like, the thing is obviously we've developed and delivered successfully a number of different projects, like across the city. Like, we can provide advice, like, about how you can do it in your community. You know, it's like what like if you think about you, Kev, basically in Aylwood, if you said, you know what, debt and welfare advice, you know, it'd be great that in Aylwood. Like how could we set that up? Well, we've got a partnership with Vauxhall Law Centre. Like, and there's no reason, like Alan Kelly, who runs VLC, who's a cracking fella, season ticket holder, member of SOS. We could easily reach out to him, basically, you know, if somebody can find a location, like, you know, where basically he could send one of his solicitors up. Like, you could run a debt advice service in Aylwood, sponsored by SOS. Like, same with the guitar club. Like, or basically, if you came up with the idea of a pantry in Aylwood, you know, make an approach to fan support food banks and SOS about, you know, we'd like to see one in Aylwood. Like, obviously, we have to take, you know, especially with fan support food banks, Birkenhead's on our case now as well, and obviously we're in negotiations with Anfield, and we've got to think about how we're going to pay for everything. But you know what? If you don't come up with ideas and be positive, you don't make a change, do you?
No, you don't. You don't.
But, you know, we might have to, if somebody comes forward with a great idea and we can't do it, the thing is you acknowledge that idea and say, that's a brilliant idea. We're just not in a position to do that at the moment because, A, we haven't got the resources, whether that's financially or basically like human resources to be able to do that. Like, but yeah, let's have ideas and let's be an open organisation and let's listen and let's let's do things. Let's do positive things. That's my message really to the membership, and you know that's what we're there to do. The management committee are there to support that, and ideas that the members have got, just write in and tell us about them, Mike.
And that guitar community workshop is really going to boom when they find out Alison Becker is the guitar instructor as well. So I'm sure you'll have loads of people flooding there. Paul, you mentioned education, and I myself in my day job, I work in education. I'm a secondary school teacher, and this part of one of the initiatives actually that really appealed to me on a personal level, but also I think that everybody listening, everyone who's been to school, everyone associated with a school, which is pretty much 95% of the population, you're involved in the Real Truth Legacy Project, which is an educational project centered around the survivors and the families of the 97 fans who tragically lost their lives as a result of the national disaster that is Hillsborough on April 15th in 1989. And the Real Truth Legacy Project was started in September 2021 to ensure that the real truth of Hillsborough is taught across all age groups in schools via an assembly. And the idea behind it really is to ensure that the lies and the smears about the disaster, which was propagated by the media and state, will be eradicated essentially forever. And this motion was passed unopposed by the council with full cross-party support. And then this motion was put through every region in Liverpool City region. And after reading and researching further into the project, it's again something that I personally feel should be taught in schools across the United Kingdom, not just in Liverpool, as part of the national curriculum. And I know that yourself and Ian Byrne are leading, on looking into whether that could be put into the national curriculum. And I personally, and I'm sure every football fan, every family member, wish you every success in getting that motion passed. And how important is it, not just for the city of Liverpool, but how important is it for the world really, and certainly the United Kingdom, to have this motion actually put through?
Well, I think it's massively important. I think that the title of the project says it all, really, doesn't it? The Real Truth Legacy Project. First of all, I just want to say I've only played a small part in this. Basically, Ian Byrne has driven it. Like his dad was very badly injured at Hillsborough. Obviously, I was at Hillsborough. I was lucky. Ian got lucky, really. So it's a subject really close to his heart, and it's a subject that's close to all of our hearts, and we've had to be very careful in terms of we've had to work with survivors, educationalists, basically the various Hillsborough groups, and because it's such an emotive subject, and the part that I played really was when Ian said what he was doing. My background was education. Well, it is education. Well, I'm still involved in education, but I'd always worked quite closely with the chair of the Liverpool Learning Partnership, who looks after all secondary schools advisors of secondary schools across the city, and I approached her and to talk to her about what we were trying to achieve, and then I managed to get a number of different teachers involved, who'd already developed Hillsborough resources, and the idea was I initially brought them together with Elaine and to compare and contrast resources and look at trying to create something which was best practice, really. The teachers, all credit to them, have been absolutely incredible. And we've developed this education pack for delivery at assemblies. We were very fortunate as well. One of the ideas was to get an academic on board, basically to fact check everything. So Phil Scratton, like, has been heavily involved. He's been absolutely fantastic. So Phil has been heavily involved. We've started to roll out the assemblies across Liverpool, and it's a difficult thing to do. I know I mentioned when we spoke, Ritchie, you know, Hillsborough is a sensitive history, and, you know, some teachers, I always remember, because I was involved a lot in transatlantic slavery when that got put on the curriculum, but it was an option. A lot of people shied away from it because of the emotion that can bring up as well, due to modern day slavery and things like that. Like, I suppose the analogy I'm trying to use is that with Hillsborough, you know, the thing is, you could be teaching it in a class, and next minute, like, somebody breaks down and cries, you know, like, and well, somebody gets really angry, and, you know, teachers aren't trained. Like, it's not an exact science. It's not like mathematics or science where, you know, how do you deal with that emotion? You know, that's one of the things that I found needed to be dealt with when I was involved with transatlantic slavery. And so, you know, one of the things that I said is that, you know, you've got to prepare teachers in terms of, you know, if you're going to do this, like, you know, you might get this response or you might get that response, and this is how you deal with this, and this is how you deal with that. So, you know, the method of teaching that, like, there's going to be a teacher's resource pack. And also, one of the things that we put forward is creating a centre of excellence in how to teach. Basically setting up, you obviously, anybody who's involved in education will know CPD, continuing professional development. So saying, look, here's the resources for Hillsborough, these basically how you want to go about it. I mean, I mentioned that we were in a school in Wooton a couple of weeks ago just to witness, you know, one of the assembly, the assembly being done, and the teacher was a young teacher. Obviously, didn't really know that much about Hillsborough, but he didn't feel comfortable, and neither did the head. The pair of them didn't want to do it, and luckily enough, we'd done one in Norris Green, and the teacher from Norris Green was brilliant. And she said, look, she was actually on holiday, or took time off. I don't know how she got the time off, but she came and delivered it. And so that's another challenge, you know, like, you know, making sure that you've got to think about teachers' mental health as well. So one of the other things just to mention about the Real Tooth Legacy Project, one of the things that we thought about was, you're right, we've got to get the proper story out there. We've got to, you know, it's got to be factually correct, and I'm pretty positive that it is. You know, Phil and his team from Belfast University have done a fantastic job for us, Elaine. But we wanted to do, you know, a big element about it is campaigning and how to organise a campaign, because we wanted to make it relevant for other areas as well. You might use Hillsborough basically like as a template. You know, us as supporters, and especially the families, have been so much over all the years. And like, you think about like Grenfell in the last few years, you know, they've had that terrible disaster and they're all stuck there. What the bloody hell do we do? You know, like, how do we organise a campaign and stuff like that? And hopefully resources like this will help, like people who need to organise campaigns in their area as well, do that. And
I think it's a really good point that you touched upon. Like, so I've been teaching. I teach English, which is a subject which is perhaps a little more empathetic. We you know, in English, when you're reading lots of novels, you do cover quite significant moments of people's lives, and you know, we do cover themes that are really hard hitting. And some teachers obviously don't necessarily have that. And I think it's really important that what you've done, I've seen the assembly slides and I think they're phenomenal. I think they're exactly what assemblies need. They need to be factual, they need to be impactful, and they obviously need to be accurate too. So, you know, what you've provided is not just, right, we want you to go and teach this and we're not really fussed how you do it, but we want you to do it. You know, education doesn't work like that. It has to be precise and it has to be accurate. And those assembly slides, like for an assembly, is absolutely everything that those students need. So actually allowing the teachers to have these resources and thinking about the teachers' welfare as well, because there's so much sensitivity still around Hillsborough and still around, you know, everything that there could be in a sensitive topic, in fact, is still in education today. So I think allowing them to have those resources is such a great step to actually say, look, we want this done properly as well. And, you know, and it has to be delivered properly. We see so many instances where football fans go to grounds, and I think lots of football fans perhaps obviously get caught up in the moment. It's very tribal in that football atmosphere. And we still hear the abhorrent tragedy chants. And I'm not saying it's just directed at Liverpool fans at all. Other clubs suffer from it as well. But this is so important because of the re-education. If students knew growing up what impact Hillsborough had, what Hillsborough actually was, hopefully they would grow up knowing that it's not okay to chant about that for brownie points at a football stadium, and likewise any other tragedy, you know, that has occurred in football.
That's right. Education is key to it all. Obviously, on the tragedy chanting, I mean, we've been at the forefront, basically, of leading the discussions with the Premier League. And, you know, we got a result a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? You must have seen it, like, where basically the Premier League is saying they're going to stamp it out. And I think at Chelsea the other day, I think there was one arrest, one ejection. I wasn't there, but obviously I've just... obviously, people who were there and basically reports that I've seen on the media have said about that. So, I mean, that's another good example of spirit of Shankly, like driving something forward, which, yeah, it affects Liverpool fans, tragedy chanting, but it's obviously broader than that, isn't it? I mean, I didn't realise, like, QPR fans have been getting stick about Grenfell. like,
How?
I know.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Supporters, you know, and in fairness, I've got to say, you know, that terrible accident yesterday, like where the poor man lost his life, you know, at Bramley Moor Dock, and some Liverpool fans have put tweets out there. Well, basically, tragedy tweeting's not good. Like, you know, we released a statement last night, SOS, you know, to offer our condolences to the family, and, you know, we're all behind you, and, you know, the football community should come together. But the advent of social media, I mean, it gives these planks basically, like, you know, an opportunity to punch score on things that are terrible. And, you know, as Spirit of Shankly, we condemn that right across the board. I've got to say that right now. Can't be one rule for Liverpool and not a different rule for other people. But yet the Real Truth Legacy Project, obviously Ian's fighting like mad basically to get it established on a national curriculum. He's had one meeting with, I can't remember the first name, Keegan, who's the education secretary, like, who's dead keen about it. Like
Gillian Keegan.
Gillian Keegan, yeah. And I think the great thing is, you know, it goes back to what I said before about this approach. You know, when Ian was going forward with it, this is the little bit that I helped with in some respects, because I'm not a subject matter expert on it. Do you know what I mean? But I knew that there were other people that were, so it was bringing them people in. And that's the way, basically, I've said about SOS. We'll have 15 working groups, and we'll have people on them who understand what they're doing. And that's exactly how we did the RTLP. Like basically, like, you know, we got the teachers together, all credit to them teachers, and they were cross-curricular as well, by the way. Like, you know, they put all that work in, and, like, it's great, you know, to make it relevant. And Richie, you'll understand this, like being a teacher, you know, when it comes from teachers have wrote it, teachers have done it, you can automatically pick up on that and say, you know what, it's not some freaking academic basically sitting in some office saying, oh, this is the way it should be done. It's been done by people like you, like, and that makes it relevant and makes it, you know, I don't know. I think it provides it with more strength to the argument to be able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think without trying to go down an education podcast route, it's so important that actually teachers are able to put their own context into it. It's not just reading off a board or reading off a PowerPoint anymore. You know, teachers need to be educating with a passion and with a desire to want to do that. And you know, it doesn't just have to be an English teacher who does that. It could be a chemistry teacher, a maths teacher, a history teacher. It could be anybody who delivers that message, as long as they're passionate and they're delivering it, you know, correctly. So a massive thank you to all of those teachers doing such a tremendous job, you know, re-educating our youth as well, because that youth will be our future one day. I'm going to pass over to Kev.
Just one last thing, basically, about RTLP is that it's not just for schools either. Basically, Ian's been working. I haven't been involved in this, but basically, he's been working. I think it's with Unite, to create an adult education path as well, which will be rolled out by trade unions, across the country as well. So there's also going to be. And one of the things that I actually said, I mean, this might sound quite controversial, but this is my personal perspective, not Spirits of Shankly. But that gentleman, basically, who wore that terrible shirt, Man United '97 is not enough, you know, which is just totally horrible. Me personally, I would have just basically had got him in a room and basically just said, yeah, right, here's the real truth, legacy project, learn from it. That should have been part of basically his rehabilitation, really, to see, not just basically whatever he got, community. I don't know what he got, but basically, you've got to re-educate these people. You've got to make it real to them, basically, how impactful, things like what he's just done is on people, families and friends that are still suffering after Hillsborough, you know, so.
Yeah, just on the sensitivity around Hillsborough, we've seen the safe standing coming into grounds, a very sensitive area. And from an SOS point of view, how was that actually approached by the union, and how was it tackled to get where we are now, where we see it within Anfield? Because that must have been a very difficult conversation to start with and to see where it's ended up.
Yeah, I think obviously some of the lads have been up to Celtic and all that because they were one of the first, and then I know the clubs consulted the families basically in relation to how they would feel about safe standing, and they sort of, my understanding is they gave it the okay. To be honest, it's a really good example of the supporters board as well, and how this can be an example of how the supporters board work. Basically, Liverpool approached us about what the plans were for safe standing, presented their plans, Chris Markey, I think it was, and I think it was, I don't know, it was Joe Kirkham, or can't remember the people who were. It was my first supporters board meeting, which was only a couple of months ago. So they presented the plans, basically come back. They asked us to take them away, discuss it with our relevant supporters group. So basically we took them back, spoke to our management committee at Spirits of Shankly, said this is what the club were turning around and saying. They asked us to come back with any questions that we had, which we did. And we presented them to Joe Blott, who's the chair of the supporters board. He gave them to the club. We reconvened on a Zoom call. The club answered all the questions. And that's where the supporters board is important, because it's given direct access into. And the thing is, SOS, obviously, all our questions that we wanted answered. Obviously, there's going to be occasions when they're going to answer them and we come back and we don't agree with them. There were a couple of things that we turned around and said which we didn't agree with, because initially they were planning, I think, when it was all going to be rolled out, that there was going to be 7,000, the first 7 rows would be still seats. Obviously, it's only getting past the introduced this year in the COP and some of the Anfield Road, but they were saying that people who were in the seats on the COP in the first 7 rows can't stand up. And we said, that's going to cause murder. Do you know what I mean? How are you going to steward that? Like, and then they were saying about like the fact that they're going to write to people about like, if you don't want to stand up, basically like, we'll sign off you somewhere basically like else in the grounds, and like we've got to follow through to make sure that process, and that's part of what Spirit of Shankly does. People may come back and say, I haven't been consulted, and we need to go back to the club and say, you haven't done what you said. It's actually it's a weird one, basically, because the initial rollout is called rail seating. It's called rail seating, like, and really, it's supposed to be. It won't change. Safe standing sounds exactly the same to me. So the initial rollout is self-seating. So basically, if we're all standing there, what it is if we jump up when we score or whatever, we've got a bar to hang on to. But then safe standing, it won't change. Basically, like, it'll just be a different terminology in a year or two's time. Like, I'm struggling to understand, and like, what how you differentiate between the two. But that's something that, as I said before, I'm learning, and they're the things that I've got to ask the club. And then, like, there'll be people, we're all the same. There'll be people just like me, like just that I've got an opportunity to make to have a voice with the club. Like, you'll be thinking exactly the same thing, and that's what SOS is there to do. It's just that I've got a bit of a voice to ask some of the questions, and that's it, really.
Yeah. No worries.
You mentioned about the relationship that you have with the club, and now there's a few disgruntled supporters, but at the moment we are in the transfer window, so that's I suppose to be expected, perhaps in terms of the club dealing with the transfers amongst other things. But we've spoken before about the role of SOS and the current owners, and there's been a few hurdles along the way, such as season ticket prices that you mentioned, the attempted trademarking of Liverpool, the safe standing that we've just been speaking about. Could you go into any detail about the relationship that you have as a supporters union and the communication you have with the club?
Well, this is why the supporters board was formed, really, because after the absolute, frigging debacle of the European Super League, like, when that was just like sort of announced, and there'd been no consultation with Spirit of Shankly or anybody, no other supporters group, and obviously SOS entered dialogue with the club, basically to turn around and say, what you're doing is completely wrong, and why haven't you consulted us, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when the idea was formed, basically by Spirit of Shankly. I was on the management committee, we had a discussion, and we thought about, well, how can we have like a formalised relationship with the club and different members who drive different departments within the club? How can we create this form of relationship? And that's where the idea of the supporters board was formed. So basically, it was Ian Byrne, Anna Burgess, Joe, and Graham, basically, who used to be the vice chair, who entered into serious negotiations with various members of the Liverpool board about the setting up of the supporters board, basically, so that they can't make any daft decisions, like, so in the Articles of Association, there's things about like moving ground, there's things about changing the colour of your shirt, and because, you've seen it, you wouldn't believe, Cardiff, the Bluebirds went red, didn't they? And, you just don't know, basically, like, well, so there's certain things that are already built into the Articles of Association. Like, obviously, I do think it's a good idea. Some people think it should just be Spirit of Shankly on there, but I can't see any reason why. As I say, I'm all about inclusivity and embracing other people. And obviously, we've got 10 votes. Like, the LDSA have got 1 vote. Cop-outs have got 1 vote. But they're supporters like us as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're good people as well. They've got the best interests in heart. So, like, obviously, there are other organisations that are on there, but I think that's a good thing. That's my personal perspective. And the thing is but I just want to reassure SOS members that, because I know people have wrote in, and there's been things on different forums that I've noticed and I've been asked to respond to, that you know, if SOS voters won, like we basically control every decision that's made, every vote that goes through. It's as simple as that. SOS has the biggest voice, so the controlling voice, and but why not listen to like-minded supporters as well and get the voice of Paul at cop-outs? Why not listen to Gareth, basically like in the OLCs, the official Liverpool supporters clubs? Why not listen to the 1906 young lads and all that? Like I think it's good that there's a forum where there's a number of like-minded Liverpool fans. Yeah, and the thing is a number of those people are also members of Spirit of Shankly as well, which is great, you know. So the supporters board gives an opportunity to. I had a meeting with Amanda Jacks last week, the director of fan engagement. I met her to talk about a number of different issues. One about keeping a match day experience and like stuff about season tickets and stuff like that. Like, so, you know, it's important that we have dialogue with the club and we have access to people who make decisions, and that one of the things that I was asked was, you know, what our stance is in terms of our approach to the club. And my approach is pretty simple, really. We're a critical friend. Basically, we want the best for the club, right? But basically, if there's something that they're doing that we really disagree with, well, we'll be taking that back to our members and we'll be taking the action that we feel is required. We're a union. Basically, we're here to represent the fans. We're here to advise you so that things like the ESL never happen again. But yeah, if we need to take action, but obviously the first point of call to me is to have that conversation with the club. And if we're unhappy with what the club is saying, I come back to you as members and say, listen, I've just listened to them. I think they're talking a load of like nonsense, basically. And I think to myself like that, what we need to do is do something about that. We've met as an MC and we think we should potentially take this action, that action, and then we should put it to you to a vote. I want a quick, clear system where, you know, you look at the Jordan Henderson frigging thing that's just gone on. You know, we were stuck between a rock and a hard place there, because do we support oppressive regimes, Spirit of Shankly? Absolutely, of course not. We don't. But we've also had a stance that we never comment on basically transfers and players. We don't see that that's our, you know, and then, you know, you've got like cop-outs who came out very strongly against it. You know, we were quite worded in our statements. Obviously, the supporters put out quite a strong statement, and some people said, well, why didn't people SOS oppose that? It all happened so quickly. You know, it happened within days, didn't it? You know, the SOS statements, one of the things that I personally added at the bottom is I always try to look at positives. And I said, you know, hopefully these players, because Henderson's been called out because of his support for the LGBTQ community. But Fowler, Robbie, you know, Stevie, basically, Bobby, Fabinho, nobody really commented much about like them. Henderson seems to have took it all, but all those ex-players need to look at themselves and think about the decision we made. You know, they're not poor, they're all rich, they don't need the money, but they've gone out there. And the thing that I added to the SOS one was basically it'd be good if you could use your position of influence to try and make, you know, promote change in that country. Try and promote some change in that country. You know, carry on campaigning, or you know, Jordan, wear your LGBT laces, basically the rainbow laces. You know, do something, make a stand. Use your position while you're over there to sort of highlight issues that matter for the vast majority of free-thinking people around the world, not just in Liverpool and across the country. But we'll wait and see whether they do that.
Right.
Thanks. It's a real difficult situation that you get put in when you get asked about players, because it's not your decision. So I think that's what people need to remember, is actually it's your decision that that Jordan's made, and he's made it for his own personal reasons. So to go to a supporters union, there's not really too much else that you can do. It's Jordan's personal decision, and hopefully, as you said, all of the ex-players, obviously now Sadio's out there too, hopefully all of them could get together and make a really positive impact in change. You spoke about the Middle East investment, and Liverpool are looking for new investment. A really tricky situation, really. Where do SOS stand on any sort of Middle East investment coming in, perhaps to FSG, or anything that the Middle East regimes might want to invest in Liverpool Football Club?
Well, actually, it's not that difficult a question, really. This is where the voting system will be all important, because the thing is, you've got people who write in basically quite strongly, turning around and saying we should be basically taking that money so we can be competitive. They're not interested in the human rights record. Then you've got loads of us basically who are socialists, or forget the socialism, basically just people who value human rights, who think to ourselves, well, that's not the right thing to do. And that's where the voting system will be important, because we've got to listen to what the membership say. So if I mean, this is all hypothetical at the moment, but one of the things that I'd be doing is be putting out a question. Like if Liverpool were going forward and saying, look, there's going to be full ownership takeover by this particular regime, blah, 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 or individual, we'd be sitting on the stall and saying, do you agree or do you not agree? And then, depending on what came back, we need to think, because it can't just be about the personal opinions of the MC. It's got to be about the opinions of the union. That's what a union is there for. And I'd like to think that the majority would come back and say it's not for us. But that's people's individual choice, isn't it? You've got to be democratic in that process. So I don't know whether that answers the question.
I think it does, and I think actually it probably emphasises just how much communication that you have with the club as well. Many people probably think you wouldn't be privy to the new owners or any of those talks going on, but the fact that you are really emphasises just how much of a communication that supporters unions have with the club. And I think that people listening to that, well, I want to be part of that too. I personally would want to be part of that. Every Liverpool fan would want to be part of that decision being made. And that's something that you can do through Spirit of Shankly.
Exactly right. There's an obligation for the club to tell the supporters board if there's going to be basically an ownership issue, and then obviously it'll come back to SOS, and then it's up to us to decide whether we support or we don't support. And that's the way a democratic union should work. As I keep saying it, basically, but need to listen. Every single person's voice is important as another's. Some people might think they're more important than others, but they're not. Basically, to me, doesn't matter where you're from. Basically, if you're a good Liverpool fan, you should have basically the same voice as anybody else, and it should be listened to. And I always say, and I've said it all throughout my career, basically, you don't listen, you don't learn. You need to listen to people. You might not always agree with their arguments, but unless you sit there and you listen, you can't make a value judgment. If you just shut people down and don't listen, whether it's an opinion you don't like, you don't learn. So, and a progressive, forward-thinking union organisation we need to listen, and basically we need to learn, and we need to do the right thing, and by the supporters, and hopefully for the club as well.
We are wrapping up here, so please could you remind us where fans can find SOS Saturday and on match days?
You'll find us like this week we're in at Hotel Anfield. You'll see a big banner, support and believe, and you'll see a couple of bozos like me knocking about, like, and you can come up and ask questions. We've got you can basically sign up there and then, like, if you'd like to do that. We'd be interested to see how you'd like to get involved in supporting us. I said it before, but nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And like somebody might come up and basically have some unique skill, basically like that we're really looking for, and like we say, oh bloody hell, isn't that great? Like you could really help the union out with this. You don't have to be. I'm not into hierarchy and management committees and all that. Like there needs to be one because you've got to have a structure. But the thing is, like, you're only as strong as your team. You're only ever as strong as your team. I found that out through all my business life and all the different jobs that I've done. Like, I've been lucky to, manage big teams and big. Yeah. That doesn't matter, but you're only ever as strong as the people who are behind you, and it's important basically to take into consideration what they've got to say, basically what they've got to offer. Harness their knowledge, harness their skills. That's why I've tried to reach out to ex-members of the MC as well, and I've reached out basically to both of the ex-chairs, Jay McKenna. We keep missing each other. Me and Jay, we're supposed to be meeting because I want to gain an insight into basically like what his experience was as a chair, how he found dealing with the club. Basically he's got all that knowledge, like, in his mind, like, and I'd be silly not to talk to him, basically, because he can say he's good, he's not that good, this person does good things, this person doesn't, what's this person, he's tricky, or like, and I've reached out to Fran McKenna as well via email, like, I'd like to sit down, Fran Scranton, to sit down with him, like, that's the way, if I'm going to develop, become a half-decent chairman, I need to listen to other people and learn from what they found hard and what they have found worked well, and then try to apply them in a positive way,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. And that is great, Paul, because you talk about Jay McKenna, and he was the shadow of and worked under the late great Paul Rice as well, and was brought up underneath him, and the work that Paul did prior, and that started all off with those 300 people in the sand. And it's great to have those kind of people that you can fall. Sadly, not Paul, but it's great to have the likes of Jay there as well. You can get a bit of insight from it. It's worthwhile to delve into that kind of knowledge that they can bring to the table for you.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, basically John Nicholson, like, his son runs the Boss Nights, Daniel, like,
yeah,
absolutely great fella, Nichol, like, and he's been brilliant because he manages all our membership and all that. He's not on the MC anymore, but he didn't give up all that. Like, he's doing that. And I said before, Mono, who basically, heart and soul of the club, like, he said, he'll provide advice, and like, there are other people, like ex-MC members, but also other people who've never come forward and wants to put themselves forward to be on the MC, who might have loads of brilliant ideas. I'm just open to, like, to anybody who can do something which will add value, really. Like,
just a sponge soaking up the knowledge.
Yeah, well, that's the way the whole of the management committee should work. Basically, that's the way we've got to be. There'll be people out there who are brilliant at merchandising, for example, and one of the ways we might grow, basically, like, our potential to do more community outreach work is by selling T-shirts or selling badges or something like that. And somebody might come forward and say, I can really help you in that. that's my world in basically the private sector. So, you know, yeah, there's so many good people out there.
Yeah, I'm going to leave us with perhaps the most famous Bill Shankly quote, and it's not about Liverpool being the best team and the reserves being the second best team on Merseyside. I believe the only way to live and be truly successful is by a collective effort, where everyone working for each other, everyone helping each other, and everyone having a share of the rewards at the end of the day. That might be asking a lot, but it's the way I see football and the way I see life. And I think we've touched on that quote immensely today, talking about socialism, talking about community, and talking about, you know, re-education, education, helping each other, and inclusivity. So thank you so much, Paul, for joining us today. It's been such an insightful podcast for us on The Room, and I really look forward to meeting you later in the season when I do manage to get up to Anfield with my tickets. And I know that Kev is also. So thank you very much for Kev for joining, my co-host, and Kev TV is live and kicking. And Paul, thank you so much as well for joining us. I've been Richie.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm glad you read that out, Richie, because just to emphasise to all SOS members, the value, the culture, basically the spirit that Shankly wanted, that's what we're that is what we're all about. And that's, you know, we're trying to carry on basically his legacy, and we're trying to do the great man, you know, hopefully be proud of us. So.
Definitely.
Yeah, Liverpool Football Club will not be the way in the position that they are and have the success that they had without that man. So thank you so much again for everybody listening. This has been The Room podcast, brought to you by LFC Transfer Room. Take care, God bless, and as always, up the Reds.
Yeah, cheers guys, take care.